Welcome back to Cybersea of Galilee, DSMME, on this May 18th. And May 18th is the feast of St. John the First. Have you ever heard of St. John the First? Many people have not. And why is he the first? Because you might be able to guess, he became a pope. And so he was Pope John the first one ever to take the name of John. So what do we know about him? He was born in Tuscany, and Tuscany is a land of vineyards. It's a very beautiful part of Italy, I think. It's probably my favorite part. It also holds Siena, where St. Catherine of Siena was born, lived, and died, a great Dominican doctor of the church. And so he was born near Siena, actually. And so even in our picture where we have Christ taking the wine and at the Last Supper saying, "This is my blood," over the wine being these crushed grapes. And so I really want to emphasize that because St. John the First's life had a lot of crushing in it. It certainly had its joys, but it also had its sorrows. And the wine that is very famous from this particular area is known as Vin Santo, which is a famous dessert wine. But in any case, if we get back to the theme of St. John the First, he was elected Pope while he was actually an archdeacon. And the Pope had just died in front of him, and so with this election, he was elected in just the year 523. So he's one of the earlier ones, which is why he became John the First. His life was full of a lot of suffering because he really tried to work at peace, and he was sent ultimately on a diplomatic mission to Constantinople and had relative success. But the king, because again, the king was very tied into the church at this time and in a very unhealthy manner, the king did not appreciate what he had done and thought that he should have been more powerful. And so as John the First is returning, the king actually negotiates for even better plans with his enemies. And so he's mad at John, and what does he do? He actually has him imprisoned for allegedly not doing quite enough. Now, at this point in his life, Pope John the First is elderly. He has been sickly. This voyage and this trip has caused him a great deal of concern, agony, energy that he certainly did not have. So he actually dies in imprisonment, being banished, and just because of neglect and ill treatment. So he's one of the martyrs in the church because he certainly lived faithful to the faith, and the fidelity cost him ultimately his life. Now today I want to point out another very special pope who many of us have lived during his pontificate, and if you haven't, you need to just read everything that you can about him. St. John Paul the Great would turn, if he were alive, 101 today. So happy birthday to St. John Paul the Great, who doesn't have to worry about earthly birthdays anymore, but had one because that was 101 years ago today. He was born to his beloved parents, Karol and Emilia Wojtyła. So let us pray for our families and particularly for our parents, and pray for the church suffering in the world today, that we will all rise glorious at the last day to see God face to face for all eternity. God bless you from the Cybersea of Galilee, DSMME.